invite you to embrace this pivotal weekend in the race to be the champions of the Premier League.
You're listening to FPL Copy Talks. Arguably the best FPL podcast in Singapore.
It was never a debate.
It was always a debate.
never
It was always a debate.
Alright, hello and welcome back to the episode of FPL Copy Talks where two gentlemen come together to speak about the game we love, Fantasy Premier League. This is the FPL Playbook series, your ultimate guide to mastering Fantasy Premier League. And I'm your host today, Anwar the FPL Casual, and with me, my buddy.
Lukman, the sensible one. We are back with another episode. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling refreshed actually. After this conversation, I have some new perspective on how I want to approach the 24-25 season coming up.
Wow, interesting.
How about yourself?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited to deeper into midfielders. We just finished recording the defender portion, and I feel like there's something that even though I played for quite a while, I still think that there are a few things to take away from the stats, especially you dove deep into some of the points per million stats. We will be doing the same right now for the midfielders, the engine room. But before we start the regular spiel, I will say that if you guys haven't followed us on our socials, especially Telegram and Instagram, the community is in Telegram, and most of our postings will be done on Instagram. Do follow us. Do share the podcast. Do like and subscribe and all that jazz.
Yep. And the main reason why we're doing this FPL playbook is because we feel that most of the time, new FPL managers, players who use or want to get back into FPL, they consume most of the content during preseason. And we want to be your partners if you are interested in getting back into FPL. And one of the main reasons why many people usually fall out from playing FPL in the full season, you can listen to that again in getting in the first part of this pod. But I just want to say again, we are here to build a community of engaged FPL managers to support each other through this journey. I'm going to love this podcast a lot. Yeah, I mean, this episode, not this. Of course, I love my podcast, but I'm going to enjoy this episode a lot because I really love this position on the football pitch, the midfield maestros. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is the FPL playbook, the engine room. Let's go.
This is the FPL Playbook, your ultimate guide to mastering Fantasy Premier League. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, this podcast series covers everything you need to know. From building a winning team to discovering game-changing strategies, we're here to transform casual players into engaged enthusiasts. Get ready to elevate your FPL game.
All right. Before we begin, let me just put on my coach jacket on because this is going to be a very serious podcast. This is going to be the most important one, in my opinion. At least I'm really excited for this one because the engine room, right? The fuel to our FPL points, the midfield maestros. I'm loving this position of the Fantasy Premier League portion of the game, right? So let's go to again. We'll go to a quick overview. I think let's look at this. We need 5 defenders. Sorry.
Yep.
We need 5 midfielders, right? 5 midfielders in your team, and you need to start at least 2.
Yeah.
Okay, at least 2. So 5 midfielders, you need to start at least 2. Let's look at the key points generated from midfielders. So everything else is the same, like the same as a forward, right? So the number of playing time, you get the same amount of points. Goal scored for midfielder is slightly higher than an forward. So 5 points for midfielder, right? Assist points is the same. The only difference is that you get an additional bonus clean sheet point if your team keeps a clean sheet in your midfielder, right? And other than that, that's the same, right?
Correct.
So I think clean sheet potential as well as goal scored, I think these are the two different points between a midfielder and an attacker.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
General price range for midfielders, I think it's a wide range for midfielders. I think the cheapest we can go is 4.5 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lukman, for midfielder.
Correct. 4.5 is the lowest midfielder.
Right?
Pricing.
And then you can go to as expensive as Mo Salah at 13 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that the record for midfielder? 13 million?
Yeah, I don't know. I should be I think 14.
I think so, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
for
I think
midfielder. Yeah.
For Haaland, for attackers, we've got a couple of 14 millions. Your Terry Henrys, your Haalands.
RVP.
Who else?
RVP, I think.
RVP,
Yeah.
Robin Van Persie, yeah. But yeah, so then you have like premiums, mid price, and budget. So the range is really, really huge. Generally, for budget midfielders, I would personally, for me lah, anything 5.5 million and below is just a gem for you to find someone who actually plays decently. Right. So we've had players this 23-24 season. Of course, the main man himself, the man who steamrolled Cole Palmer, was a budget defender. He came in at 5 million.
Yep.
Was it 5 or 5.5?
5.
5 million. What a legend, lad. Right.
Top scorer.
And he ended the season at 6.3 million, top scorer. I think the point per million was just crazy. So budget there, you really need to find the gem. But other than that, I don't think we have many
Gordon is 5.5.
low price.
If I'm not wrong.
Okay, Gordon is 5.5. Yeah, pretty budget. Yeah, Gordon. I think Ganacho to some extent.
Yeah.
Right. I think he is also
5.
at 5 million. I think he's
Yeah.
also some value. I think there is some
There will be some lah.
budget defenders,
Yeah.
midfielders, right? Yeah, there will be some. I agree with you. But
But,
other than that, I think
yeah.
it's very, very difficult
As
to
in those
very,
budget,
very
right?
thin pickings lah at the budget.
Game week 1, you will probably don't know who the budget gems are.
Yeah,
It won't be
who
on game
stand
week.
out.
You will know later on in the season. Yeah.
Right. And then mid price, we have those from 5.5 to maybe 8 million, 7.5 to 8 million. That will be where we would consider our mid price.
8.5.
I think generally most of the midfielders here would fall in your defensive midfielder, central midfielder category.
Yeah.
In decent teams, right? So this is where we go. And maybe
And wingers.
the premiums are of course your wingers and your
Yeah.
strikers who operate as wingers also,
Yep.
or wingers that operate close to attacking positions.
Yep.
So I think that's your premium, and then you have your ultra premiums, which is your 10 million and above.
Yeah.
I would say.
You say
So
10
your
million.
Salah, your
Okay.
I would say 10 and above.
Alright.
What about you? 9? 9 or 10?
I think 9 cannot be mid price, right? So what's below premium and above mid price?
Yeah, correct. So 9 is premium.
I think 9 is
9 and above premium, and then
Yeah.
anything above like 10 is ultra premium.
ultra premium. Yeah.
like
That's fair, that's fair.
like your Salah is the ultra
Son
premium.
and
Once you
Salah.
put in money there, you have to think of putting money every Friday. So
Yeah.
like premium midfielders, we were looking at players like Mo Salah, Son Heung-min, Bruno Fernandes. So those are your
Correct.
Saka, right? Saka, these are
Saka,
your
Foden.
premium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick question. Do you think Cole Palmer will fall in this bracket in the 24-25 season?
Yeah. I think he'll be just premium. 9 million will be my guess. How about you?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know yet. But I think it's interesting because we will be discussing this in one of our future pod
Yeah.
as well. So stay tuned to that one.
We're doing the
right?
price prediction, bro.
Yeah, let's see if we have time to
Yeah,
do that. I
let's
think
see.
that'd be a fun one to do.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on. I think we have some of the basics there. 4.5 million onwards is your price for your midfielders.
Yeah.
We have some consensus above 9 million is generally your premium midfielders. So let's move forward. Lokman, what are some of the common consensus about midfielders in FPL?
So from the past few seasons, from recent seasons, they are often the highest scoring position, thanks to your likes of Salah, Son, Mane, KDB. I think usually your midfielders are the one that scores the most points because of the extra point
Yeah.
for a goal compared to forward, and also the clean sheet point. Like Salah getting a clean sheet point is ridiculous because he's like, he's not even defending.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like usually premium
He is bro, counter pressing.
yeah, true lah. Premium. Then Bobby should be getting a clean sheet point, bro.
Anyway, let's go. I agree with you.
Okay.
The clean sheet points.
Okay, so premium means are usually the golden assets are like, as I said, Salah and Son. Those are the players that are your captaincy options, and they get the most points, and they are the golden assets. And also the fact that one of the reasons why they are golden assets, right? There are different routes to points. There's assists, there's goals, there's clean sheets. Yeah, so there's more. Like 1 point for captaincy is a lot. Like one clean sheet is 2 points for captaincy. The 2 points is it counts. It counts. It adds up. So yeah, those are the common
I agree
consensus.
with you. I agree fully with you. I think if you look at personally for me last season, I think 80% of my formation was with five midfielders. So it's a 3-5-2 formation.
Okay.
And I've always more or less stuck with that because midfield is the gold mine here. So having a functioning five midfielders, I think that's where you can get the most points. And the main point is that you get every point from every situation except for penalty saves. Right? I think you get
uh,
clean sheet points, you get assist points, you get
yeah,
attacking
true.
points, and then bonus points. You
Yeah.
probably cover more ground as well on your bonus points. So midfielders generally get more bonus points as well. So they're just like your like if there's any position on the pitch that you want to make sure you get it right, it's your midfield
Yeah, it's
position.
okay. So
Do you agree on that one?
so for context, right? Just if you midfielder score one goal, right, they can haul 11 points. So a goal, a clean sheet, 3 bonus, and 1 clean sheet. So just one lucky goal can get you 11 points. That's crazy. Like for forwards, right, the most you can get is 9 points for one goal. That's the max. You can't get 10 points. For midfielders,
Yeah,
you can get 11
correct,
points,
correct.
which is a huge haul for just one random goal. Yeah.
It is.
So
Good, very, very good point there. Yeah. So it's 2 points more than a
yeah.
attacker, and we have so many attacking players who are classified as midfielders in FPL.
Yes, correct. So
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is the case, but it is what it
it
is.
is what it is.
So it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being said, right, let's deep dive. Like, what are some of the key criteria to look out for when you are selecting a midfielder, Lokman?
Okay, so we'll go with the basics. So form and consistency. So it can be recent performance, it can be historic performance, historic consistency. So for example, like Salah is off form, but you know that he's delivered time after time before, so he can be categorized as consistency lah. Like he will never fail. The other point is role and
Yeah.
positioning. So like midfielders, like they, for example, you have a winger or like a number 8 attacking mid, you see how advanced they are on the pitch. So what's their role? Are they the creator? Are they the scorer?
Mhm.
Set piece taking also. So is that part of their role? The other one is team, form, and style. So depends on the team, how the team sets up, tactics,
Yeah.
etc. And then the other one is differential. So we talked about this before, but the concept is differentials, meaning you have some gems like our friend Anwar here, who had the likes of Kudos and Neto, who were differentials. Those are very good differentials, very explosive differentials that can bring you up the ranking high with their low EO.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me stop you there for a quick while. So if you're listening to this again and this term differential is a bit foreign to you,
Yep.
let me just break it down for you a little bit. There's this term called expected ownership or EO, right? So basically, the higher the expected ownership is,
Yep.
the more likely that I won't say the more likely. That means more managers own this particular asset or this particular player,
Yep.
right? So we use asset and player interchangeably when we talk about fantasy Premier League, right? So if you have a high ownership or high EO expected ownership, then we generally classify that midfielder as template. And what it means by template is that if he hauls, then the majority hauls, so you won't gain a significant advantage against other managers.
Yep.
So a player or midfielder who has a lower EO, that means a lower ownership, anytime he hauls, that creates that differential.
Yep.
And if he holds above a template, then you get a step ahead against other managers,
Yep.
right? And where we're saying is that in midfield is where we can really capitalize on differentials to actually help you push ahead. Is that what you're saying, Norman?
Yeah. Yeah, correct. Because
Amongst all other positions,
yeah,
amongst
I
all
guess
other
because
positions,
they are the most explosive, because of what I said earlier, the 11
they
points
are.
versus 9 points. So I guess it does pertains to midfielders, but of course it's also the same for defenders and forwards. Just that midfielders are more explosive, so it's more important.
More
I feel
potential
more
in that
potential.
sense.
Yeah. Then last point is, speaking of potential, is captaincy. So like Salah and Son, they're just, if for example you're 50-50 on a captaincy decision, right? Usually I would lean towards the midfielder because of the extra points, extra potential points for clean sheets and for goals. So yeah, that's one thing that a midfielder have in advantage
Yeah.
over forwards. So yeah, those are the main points. to consider?
Yeah, I think if you ask me for midfielders, I think we don't have clear criterias for a midfielder in that sense in terms of like what exactly to look out for apart from the stats that these midfielders produce itself.
Yep,
You know what I mean?
correct.
Like we've given you so many, there's not one
Important.
model that fits
Yeah,
all,
correct.
yeah, or one more important than the other. I think for midfielders, a lot of the struggles that we have is how we can fit our budget to get the best five midfielders on board on based on the fixtures. Again, like I'm always mentioning this, we will cover this team structure episode, and I think that's a very, very crucial episode.
Stay tuned.
But in this, yeah, stay tuned. But in this episode itself, when we talk about midfielders, I think what we want to do is that if we just look in silo in individuals, in silo in the position, what are some of the criteria to consider? But I think more importantly, if we deep dive into key statistics or key metrics, they will give us a better overview of how we can identify potential
Yeah, so
midfielders, right?
when you are looking at stats for midfielders, right? Let's say you're new to stats. So one thing for midfielders, right? One stats that you look out for to analyze when you're selecting a midfielder, the one of it is key passes. So key passes are passes that lead directly to a shot on goal. So key passes, right, is also very good for your bonus. So KDB is notoriously good for bonus because of key passes. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things. Successful dribble. So if you see somebody who dribbles and successfully a lot, that is a good sign. That's a good sign that he is um active, and he's like there's more chance for him to score or return or assist. The other one is shots. Shots, just standard shots for me. So like the number of shots, the more shots, the better. Then the other one is very important for me is touches in the final third. So touches. So for example, like I think touches in the final third is very rare. Like if you have 10 in a game, right, it's considered like wow, like it's top tier already. So you have, if you do have at least like 5 touches per game, for example, in the final third.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, the 10 touches of what I meant was in the penalty box, but final third is not in the penalty box.
Okay.
Yeah, but roughly you get the point. Touches, so you know the players is involved, and also the last one is similar to key passes, chances created. So those two are for midfielders are very important. Yep.
Yeah. So I think those are like deeper stats that you can look at. But
Correct.
if you ask me very simply, what are the main stats to look at?
Yep.
I would just look at the goals, like how many goals they potentially can provide, the number
XG.
of assists.
XG.
I think
XG.
that's the basic one. Yeah. XG, which is your expected goals,
Yeah.
XA, your expected assists,
Correct.
XGI, which is a combination of both expected goal involvement.
Yeah.
I think this is the main points. And if you see most of the stats that we've picked up that Lokman has mentioned, I think most of the stats there are attacking stats. And why that is the case is because I mean for midfielders or for FPL itself, the game generally favors attacking players, right? That's how the structure is.
Yep.
That's how the point system is. There's no
Tackle.
reward or there's no incentive for you for like ball recoveries or like
There's no direct.
successful tackles,
There's no
etc.
direct reward lah.
Yeah,
There is in the bonus point
yeah.
system.
So there's bonus points, but
Yeah.
it's
So
correct. I agree with you.
yeah. So
So if you ask me, what are some of the statistics? It's a wide variant, not say wide variance. It's a wide selection. From like what Lokman mentioned, key passes, successful dribble, shots taken, touches in the final third, chances created. These are very broad statistics. But if you ask me, I would like to look at eye test first. So eye test or grass. I think I lean a lot towards eye test or grass. So what is eye test or grass? Basically, these are judgment calls based on what you see the player performing on the pitch, right? Because sometimes with the statistics that Lokman has mentioned earlier, you need some sort of trail data. And I think data can only say so much for play historical performance. At the end of the day, this data can be thrown out of the window by this thing called form. Do you agree with me on that, Lokman? I think when a player is formed, whether he has a high historical XG or high historical XGA, like it could just shoot up twofold during his period when he's in a streak of form, and we
okay.
cannot quantify that. Do you agree with me on that one?
if the XG is in a longer period of time, like the sample size is bigger, like for example like 15 games, then I would disagree. I would say that it's
No,
consistent.
but you see, correct. But you see, it's consistent, right? That within these last 15 games, let's say I get an XG or let me say expected goals of like, let's say 0.8 per game, right? Let's say,
Okay.
right. But if in a streak of form, in these last 3, 4, 5 games of form, I've been in a streak of form. It's been 1.2, 1.3, right?
Okay.
It could even go higher and higher
Okay, yeah, I
than
get.
the average of 0.8. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I get. So yeah, form. So
Yeah.
you're saying form is temporary, is it? Right?
Yeah, form is temporary, but it can have a significant impact
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
in terms of the returns on the XG,
Yeah,
XA, etc.
that's fair. That's fair.
So that being said, I think eye test alone, like it's not enough. What you can do is, if you think that based on what you're seeing that this player has potential to return with goals or assists, then you can at least look at the last 2 or 3 trailing
Yeah.
statistics, these matrices, to see if to some extent it supports your
Actually, okay.
theory in that
So for
sense.
example, right, last season,
Yeah.
right, my
Mm.
eye test on Palmer was good, and then I look at the stats
Yeah.
and it
Correct.
backed it up. But however, right, for Kudus, right, Kudus also passed the eye test for me personally. But when you look at his
Mm-hmm.
stats, right, it didn't like collaborate with my eye test. I feel like his stats was a
Yeah.
bit, yeah. So for me, like eye test is important, but the stats is just to back it up lah. For example, like if I hear
Yeah. Correct.
a content creator saying this guy is good and I haven't watched him play, then I'll probably look at the stats. I wouldn't see highlights of him. I'll probably look at his stats first. I
Yeah.
feel like it's more indicative.
So
Yeah.
maybe Lokman, you want to summarize what are the stats you probably look at again?
Okay.
What are key stats?
Okay. So key passes will be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Successful dribbles, shots, which is also
Mm-hmm.
you can put in XG and XA to that XGI, and you can look at touches in the final third, and lastly chances created. Those are the key
Okay.
stats for
Very
a
nice.
midfielder. Should we move on
I think
to
it's more of an art than a science.
stats? Is
Correct.
science, right?
Yeah. No, I mean like it's science, but XG and
Oh
that
yeah,
eventually converts to goals. I mean the decision to select a
yeah,
midfielder is
yeah.
more of an like
Wait, so
arts backed by science.
FPL is more art or science in your opinion? Or how many percent? What's your percentage?
FPL is hard, bro. It's passion. It's pure passion.
All gut,
Nah,
all gut.
just saying. Yeah, I tell you,
Okay,
all hard, man, all
all
hard.
hard, right? Okay.
Anyway, like what we've mentioned here is all the key attacking statistics, right?
Yeah, correct.
And we've overlooked defenders, but do we really stay away from defensive midfielders, or in that case, central midfielders entirely?
Yeah, so the answer to that is could be very simple, right? If you play FPL long enough, like obviously you stay away, right? But would you I don't know, why don't you share with us some of your findings from your stats from last
Yeah.
season?
So let's just look. I mean, we love to deep dive a little bit on 23-24 season. Let's look at the top 10 midfielders who hauled in the 23-24
The
season.
points are
And
top
number
10
one,
points scorer.
undisputed,
Yeah, top 10 points
correct,
scorer. Yeah.
total points. This is
Yeah.
for total points for the entire season. So number one, of course, we have the main man himself, Cole Palmer, followed by Foden, attacking midfielder slash winger, Saka winger, Son winger
Winger.
striker, Salah winger, Odegaard number 8,
It,
Gordon winger, Bowen winger striker, Harvard striker number 8, Bruno Fernandes number 8. So in the top 10 itself, there are no
defensive midfielders.
attacking
There are no defensive.
there are no defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
Right? But okay, I mean that is to say there are points lah to gain there. But remember earlier we said that defensive midfielders are generally cheaper than these attacking midfielders, correct?
Yes.
Remember that point?
Yep.
So maybe if you look a little bit deeper, if let's say these defensive midfielders
Yep.
provide better value, then perhaps we could have one or two, right? Should we even consider one or two defensive midfielders in our five midfielders? So I broke it down, all right, to look at the points per million. I love this points per million because it shows you some value in terms of how much returns you get for the money that you're investing in. So in the top 10 point per million, that means for every million pound that you spend for the whole season, how many points they can return for you. Of course, I'm going to read out the top 10 again. Palmer, Foden, Saka, Gordon, your winger striker. And then interestingly, in 5, 6, 7, 8, we've got Rice, Rodri, Bruno Guimaraes, right? And Douglas Lewis, right? Your central midfielders, right?
Fresh
And then you have Leon Bailey and Garnacho,
Garnacho.
rounding up the top 10, right? So you still have 4 out of 10 in that point per million. And check this out, okay. So apart from Cole Palmer, who averaged like 39 points per million,
Yeah.
right? The other wingers, they average about 27 points per million, which is fantastic, right? Comparing to the numbers that we hear in defenders at 20 to 24 million and goalkeepers at 20 million. So you're 27 points per million, right?
Yep.
Defensive midfielders, on the other hand, they age slightly ahead in terms of value, 28 points per million,
Average
right?
for the four of them.
Correct, for the 4 of them, right?
Okay.
And is this statistics enough for us to say that, okay, they are of better value? Okay, so
Okay.
this is interesting. We deep dive a little bit. I mean, this is a new discovery myself. So okay, they are of better value, points per million, but because fantasy football is also about the amount of time they stay on the pitch, how long you have them in your lineup, and you know that your midfielders change quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Like your midfielders, you probably have to restructure, reshuffle, and your midfielders are probably one of the position in your team that probably has the most changes. So we look at minutes per point, right? So minutes per point. So what this means is that on average, how long do you have to wait for a player to play to get 1 point? Okay. So the smaller the number is,
The worst.
the
The
more
better.
likely that
Okay.
it's going to haul when
Yeah.
he's in your lineup.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, when he's in your starting 11. So for defensive midfielder,
Around 20.
it's about 20 minutes per point.
Okay.
Okay. So on average, if they play the full game and you have a defensive midfielder, on average you're looking at
Four
about
and a
3-4
half.
points per game.
20.
4.5.
Four and a half.
4.5 points a game.
Yeah.
Right. But for the rest of the players, I mean, I'm just using the top 10 as average. Right. For the wingers, it's about 14 minutes per
Yeah.
point.
About 4.5
Right.
points
So
per
I think
game is quite good, right?
it's decent. But what I'm saying is that at 14.5, right? That's 15. Let's say it takes 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You already have more points. You already have 6 points per game
Yeah, true.
on average. That's 1.5 points per game. So the difference between the point per million is about 1 point per million, right? But the average return is 1.5 times more, 1.5 points
Yep.
more for the winger than the defensive midfielder. Okay.
Yeah, I
So if
understand.
you follow the discussion, right, at the end of the day, right, I would stay away from defensive midfielder. What do you think?
I don't know. Quite interesting. Like the fact there's 4 of them. I know the argument is like Douglas Lewis, Rice, and Bruno G are not really defensive midfielders. But if for the sake of discussion, right, I feel like I think there may be a case. But for example, these players, right, I think there's a chance that you might just get them, set and forget. So that position, you just play them and not make a transfer. I know it's not ideal, but I think that there could be a point. There could be a case if you want to have a steady Eddie that like just put like Rice there, for example, like 5.5 million, maybe
Yeah,
I might consider.
I think Rice did pretty decent. He had 165 points, but he's still. I mean, he's the first defensive midfielder outside the top 10.
Okay, he's done.
Okay, and
Yeah,
he's like 1 point below Bruno Fernandes. He's close 11.
yeah. So
But I think
so
not many people still own him.
so his points per million is so essentially you're getting 4.5 points per game for him, and I think if you think about
I
it,
mean, on average, if you look at it that way, yeah.
it's okay. It's at least 9 points in 2 games. It's like one
But
return.
that's only for the top defensive midfielders lah.
Yeah, if you want to let's
Okay,
say
but okay,
yeah. What do you
but
think?
if you draw back to what we mentioned earlier, the fundamentals of midfielders, right? The
Explosive.
main advantage in terms of points that you get is attacking returns. Correct?
True.
Your goals, your
Yeah.
assists. Clean sheet is just one additional bonus point, so that's where your defensive midfielder
That's where Rice got a lot of clean
will
sheet.
not even have an advantage against attacking midfielder because they both get the same clean sheet point.
Yeah, true.
But on the pitch, I think the attacking midfielders have more potential for you to return that goal or the assist. The only reason why I think, like for example, Rice, Rodri, Bruno G, and Douglas Luiz, predominantly central midfielders, they did pretty decently is because they actually hold 16, 17, 18 attacking returns.
Per minute.
No, attacking returns.
Oh, number
So that
of
means they
attacking
had
returns. Okay.
goals and assists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, that's pretty high for a central midfielder or defensive midfielder. Again, they are only in this discussion because they are returning the metrics of a attacking midfielder. You get me?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So I would just stay away from defensive
Okay, that's fair.
midfielders
That's fair.
entirely. Yeah.
But the other
Yeah.
argument is there's 5 midfielders, right? So there will be space for somebody if you want to set and forget because there's 5 of them, like 3-5-2 for example.
Correct.
Yeah, so there may
So I
be
think
space for one of these set and forget.
yeah. So
DMs.
I think at the end of the day, if you look at this defensive, okay, these are not primarily the defensive midfielder, not your Wataru Endos and not your like
Yeah.
Onanas and what's his name? Matengsa or what's Bisuma,
Bissouma,
right?
yeah.
Or your Caicedo or yeah, they're not your that pure defensive midfielders. I mean, at the end of the day, you're still looking. I would categorize them more as central midfielders.
Okay.
So it's still okay to look at central midfielders like your Bruno Gomes, who you know is essential to the Newcastle setup. Douglas Luiz perform way up the pitch, and I think even if you look throughout the
Penalties.
season,
Yeah.
James Ward-Prowse at one point in time he
Yeah.
was getting in with the assist. So I think defensive midfielders we stay away, but central midfielders is still like a small debate, small room to put them in. And why we want to do that is because they probably are cheaper lah, and basically you free up funds for other positions. Do you agree with me on that one?
They must have set
But
pieces like to be worth it at all, to be considered, like corners,
correct,
penalties
correct.
or whatever. Yeah, I think
Yeah, and to add to that, right? Like even if you're arguing for like a budget point of view,
yeah,
we have Garnacho and Leon Bailey who is like at 5 million,
Yeah,
5.4
yeah.
million. Even Anthony Gordon was at 5.5 million. They're
Yeah.
still wingers who provide excellent value at
True.
cheaper prices.
Yeah,
lah.
but
So you still
Garnacho,
have that. You still have
but
that
those
position.
DMs / central mids PPMs were higher than Garnacho still, right? Yeah,
Yeah, they were
and
higher
Bailey
than Garnacho still.
and
Yeah,
Bailey and Garnacho
yeah,
9 and 10.
correct.
Yeah, so
correct.
because they didn't play much, I guess, so they went. Garnacho was nil though.
Maybe just one more point to maybe confuse, not say confuse lah, to make it a little bit decision harder on the decision is that I think central midfielders have less rotation risk versus
wingers. Yep.
wingers. Yeah, and they play more minutes and they stay on the pitch a bit longer.
Yeah,
But
true.
I think that's not a
Yeah.
strong point.
Should we move on to the
Yeah.
next discussion?
So wait, before we move on, right, I think what we missed to mention or emphasize earlier in criteria for midfielders, I think it's very important to identify because a lot of midfielders they take set pieces and they take penalties.
Yep. Right?
Right.
Yep.
So I think it's really like these 2 points. If you get a midfielder who takes set pieces or penalties, I think that in itself
Makes them
you should
more.
have them near in your team.
Yep.
For example, like Cole Palmer, he takes all the penalties in a team that gets a lot of penalties. And then I think this is one of the main criteria as well for midfielder in my
Penalties is
opinion.
huge. Penalties is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move
So
on.
let's go to the next discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you continue?
So I think at the end of the day, we've decided that okay, we've cleared the discussion. We want to look at attacking midfielders who have more potential for returns. Now the question here is this: what is the strategy in selecting your midfielders? So there's one way to look at is to select midfielders based on a run of fixtures, looking at the fixtures and their fixture difficulty ratings, and deciding which midfielders to go for. And the other way, which I feel strongly for, is to really consider the form of a player. But I think this is harder to quantify, right? Whether a player is on form or not. I would argue that. So the question is, when deciding who to transfer, right? You have like a midfielder, open midfield position because of injury, a suspension, etc. When you're transferring in a midfielder, would you go for form or will you go for his upcoming fixture difficulty rating, Lokman?
Okay, as somebody who likes to plan ahead, so okay, usually FPL is a long term game. I'm not talking about like short term punts like when you're game week 35 onwards. I'm talking about long term usually. I
Yeah.
would argue I will prioritize fixtures over form because I think we only have one free transfer every week. And also form, for me, form, right, as I said just now, form is temporary. Sometimes a player on form can easily go off form if they are not like, I mean, it's just temporary. Like if they're not a good player, for example.
Yeah.
And also one more thing, that good fixtures breed forms. I believe that. I believe in that too. So I kind of prioritize fixtures. That would
Okay.
be my take. How about you, bro?
I think just a quick question. When you say long range, right? How long are we looking at, like in terms of fixtures? What's your argument for that range? Like
Okay, like for example, FPL, for example, you wait for
5 games, 10 games?
everything in FPL is a long term thing. Like okay, for example, in game week 1 and game week 10, you're still looking ahead to okay, you can't look ahead too long. But for me,
Yeah.
I
How far ahead?
usually the 6 to 8 will be my general rule of thumb. I look
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 game weeks. So that would be my general
Okay.
rule. Yeah.
My
Okay.
argument against that is that I think for a 6 to 8 game week, I think generally most of the fixtures will even out in terms of difficulty
Ah.
rating. On average, they will have a similar number of good games and bad games, unless maybe you have like 5-3, or
Okay.
unless
Okay.
you're in Manchester City or a team who's in form, then probably you would say that okay, fixtures lah. But in this case, my point is that if you're looking at 6 to 8 game weeks, then
You go with the
you
form.
shouldn't be looking. It shouldn't be more of a fixture decision, but it's more of a stability decision, whether or not the player
But form,
is nailed within the next six
okay,
to eight game week.
nail. But
Right.
form is
So
not
for
stable.
me,
Also,
when
form is also not
correct,
stable.
so form is not stable. I'm arguing that if you're looking, that it's not about looking at fixtures. So it's
Okay,
just looking at nailedness.
nailness.
Okay,
Okay.
I think if you want to look at form versus fixture, we need to look at a shorter time frame of 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
The next 4 to 5 weeks. And I think for midfielder, 4 to 5 weeks is a decent amount of time because you have one free transfer every week, correct?
Correct.
So in a 5 week window, you've got 5 transfers, and if you're not hit up with any injuries or anything like that, then if you were to make any transfers, you would want to look to capitalize in the midfield.
Okay.
Do you
That's
agree
fair.
with me on that point?
Yeah,
Have
that's
you
fair.
followed me so far?
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So because we agree that the most explosiveness comes in the midfield. Okay. So in the 4 to 5 game week, I think, what's your point there? Do you think fixture over form or just
Okay, let's say
pure
4 fixtures.
fixtures?
4 game
Four to
week.
five game weeks. Yeah. Four to
Okay.
five game
Okay.
weeks.
But the argument is, let's say the next 4 game weeks, this guy is on form, but he has bad
Mm,
fix. Let's say he doesn't have favorable fixtures over somebody who's off
yeah.
form
Okay.
with good fixtures for the next 4.
Yes. Correct.
That's a question, right? Well, I think
Correct. So let's say I have a midfielder who is going to have like 3 easy games out of 5,
yeah,
versus another midfielder who probably has 1 easy game, 2 easy games, and then like two grays and 1 red.
yeah, and he's on form, but he's on form.
Yeah, on form.
I think generally I'll go fixtures. I think I'll still lean towards fixtures. If the guy is
Yeah.
decent,
So I think
if the person is
mm,
decent, like he's not on form, but he has ability like he's just like in a bad run of form. But if he's shown before that he's actually decent, then I will go for him. How about you? You still go for form?
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one because it's really
Yeah, generally lah.
situational
Yeah,
dependent, right?
for
Like
sure.
what
Players,
the situation is.
look at the
I
players.
think it depends there. But at the same time, I feel that form cannot be underestimated in fantasy Premier
Yeah,
League,
for sure, for sure.
like or in football in general,
Yeah,
right? So I think, and why a lot of like I won't say a lot lah. I think why it's harder to trust form is because you cannot quantify form. You get what I mean?
correct.
There's no metric to say that this player is in form.
Yeah,
Like he scored 1 or 2 goals, you don't know whether he's going to score in the next game. It's a
yes,
lot about faith. It's a lot about trust. But um, fixtures do help, right? Fixtures definitely do help. But if a player is out of form or not, I think I think for me looking at this, I will look at the fixtures first, right? Look at the fixtures. If it's like 5 red fixtures, then of course it's a no go. But if
okay,
it's a decent like grey fixtures,
yeah,
then I will definitely look at his form. So certain players who have passed this form test would have been players like Pedro Neto for a certain period of time,
yeah,
Jared Bowen, right? Kudus. We were looking at even at the tail end of the season, Olise,
yeah,
Eze. These were the players who were like in form and they had, I won't say the easiest opposition, but like they were playing Liverpool, they were playing top teams,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they were still players in form and they hold Mateta, for
Yeah,
example.
Mateta scored
Right, but
against.
that's an attacker.
Okay,
Lah.
one thing
Yeah. So
by choosing these players who are off form coming into good fixtures, right? I have to consider the underlying stats also when they were so called off form, out of form. I mean, if
fair enough.
yeah, underlying stats also very important to me. If they, let's say they still have shots in goal, like 3 shots a game, decent XG, decent like XA, then I would definitely choose them. But let's say if they're underlying like really bad, like 0 shots, kind of like 1 shot in 3 games kind of thing, then maybe
Yeah.
look at the team form and stuff. So yeah, a lot of things to consider lah before I go with a
I
player.
think just to summarize this discussion, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think fixtures over form. I would say that first. I agree with you. Fixtures over form. For a couple of reasons. Fixtures are a bit more how to say it? They're a bit more data back lah. I mean, you look at the two teams who is more likely to return,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
But form is a bit more judgmental. You need
Yeah.
to takes a bit more judgment. But I would say also that catching on form, right? I think the main gameplay here is to
Yeah.
capture the differential.
That's the hardest thing in FPL.
You get what I mean?
To get the
It's
player in the right time at the
it's
right
the
time.
hardest thing.
Yeah, the hardest thing in FPL is to get the guy the right
Correct,
timing.
correct. So I think that's the fixture is there to guide you, but the form you cannot underestimate form in that sense.
Yeah, that's why Southgate
Right.
got in like Eze in the squad because he's on form
Yeah.
instead of Grealish, who's not on form.
It is
But yeah,
but it's a separate discussion. Solanke should have been there instead of Ivan Tony.
yeah, true. That's
But
yeah,
yeah.
true. Okay.
That being said, I think what we mentioned last week, right? For our opposition players, I think it's a bit more pertinent here in midfielders because we got a lot of attackers who are actually listed in midfielders.
Yeah.
Right. Loban, you want to name a few? In the
Okay, so
23-24 season.
Kai Havertz comes to mind. Bowen comes to mind.
Yeah.
San Heung-min comes to mind.
Insane.
So that there was a time, right?
Richarlison.
Yeah, Richarlison was one of the best actually. Actually, not one of the
Yeah.
best lah. One of the
Richarlison.
really out of position lah. So like
Correct.
they next season they probably some of them might be forwards. I think Havertz will be forward. I don't know about Bowen, but yeah, I remember Aubameyang right was a forward, but he played left wing and
Mhm.
he had a wonder season playing on the left. I think Lacazette was central. Then the following season he was a midfielder. Aubameyang at like 12 million,
Nice.
but he didn't do anything at the
Yeah,
midfielder.
even like Huang Hee-chan was also a midfielder, right?
Is he a forward last year?
Hee-chan.
He's a midfielder, right?
Yeah, I think he was listed as a midfielder, but he's predominantly a central forward also. Quite a number lah. If you look at it.
Yeah, that option. And
Yeah, quite a number.
So of course OP is the best thing, one of the best things in FPL for midfielders, especially they are closer to goal, etc.
Mhm.
They got more points, more likeliness of getting points just because of the positional advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Harvard's second half of the season, Harvard's was one of those. First half of the season, Sun was just getting in the points. Sun and Jared Bowen, these two players who were playing central strikers,
Yeah.
but listed as midfielders. So bonus points all around, bonus points and
All right,
goal advantage, positional advantage. Yeah.
I think we have covered a lot for midfielders. I think anything else to add, bro, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, so again, just to summarize, I think huge discussion here on midfielders. I think you can hear the enthusiasm we have when we speak about midfielders. Midfielders is where we call them the engine room, right? In this episode, it's called the engine room. They are the fuel to your fantasy Premier League points, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of strategies to go on. We've discussed attacking midfielders versus defensive midfielders versus wingers in this episode. I think the main conclusion we have here is that attacking points advantage to midfielders, and therefore we usually focus more on midfielders with attacking returns, right?
Yes, correct.
Whether you go for form or fixture, that really is dependent. But one thing's for sure, we cannot underestimate or undervalue the potential for form
Yep.
as a differential option in your midfield position.
Yep.
Yep.
Well summarized, bro.
Anything else you want to add, Lokman?
I think that's about it. I think before we wrap up this podcast, I'm looking forward to the next one. We'll be covering forwards. The title will be Forward Focus. So before we go there, we appreciate your support. Do give us a like, subscribe, and share on all our socials. Find us on our socials. It's all embedded in the description.
Yep. We'll be back in the next episode,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So probably in 2 days time or 3 days time, depending on when this is being posted. But yeah, it's called Forward Focus.
Sorry.
It's
if you guys haven't noticed yet, we are planning to release episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That is our plan right now. If you guys haven't realized.
Yeah, with Euros in between as well.
Yes, correct.
It's an interesting period.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like. If you're on Spotify, do us a favor. If you have not yet subscribed, click on the 3 buttons on the top right, subscribe, and give us that 5-star rating. We really appreciate all of your support. It's been a pleasure discussing midfield options in this episode of the FPL Playbook, The Engine Room. I am Anwar, the FPL Casual. It's been a pleasure.
And I've been Lukman, the sensible one. We are FPL Copy Talks, signing out.
You're listening to FPL Copy Talks. Right here. Right now.